Greetings to all. This is a slide presentation done by Group Kyoto. Our members are Jessie, Phang Shuen, Chooi, and Jia Jun. In this presentation, we will be analyzing Masjid Kampung Laut, the Mission House, Lieb House, and Majestic Theatre. The first local heritage conservation project that we're going to talk about is Masjid Kampung Laut, which is the oldest masjid in Malaysia. The masjid itself was originally built at the riverbank of Kampung Laut in the year of unknown. However, some said the masjid was built in the year 1401. Due to being submerged in floods frequently, in the year 1966, parts of the masjid was being swept away, leading relocation of the building in the year 1968. A quick overview. The current location for the masjid is at Kampung Nilampuri and currently owned by the Kelantan government. User for the space remain limited to Muslim, and it is still served as a place for worshipping. The cultural context is one of the reasons making the masjid so precious, which is the religious and ethnic of the place. Kelantan is a well-known Islamic city and has about 95% of Malay population, which also makes them a Muslim. As mentioned before, the masjid was damaged badly by the flood in 1966. From the image, it is clearly seen that the masjid is tilted to one side, leaving parts of the structure hanging in the air. So, what makes this masjid so special? There is a few significant value to it, such as the communal value and its historical value. However, I would like to emphasize on its surrounding context that relates back to Islamic value identities. The masjid fulfills the open masjid concept as it is built originally next to a river, surrounded by palm tree, and located in the Malay kampung to ease accessibility, allowing villagers to fulfill their daily activities here. Architectural style of Masjid Kampung Laut. The architectural style of the masjid is based on the regional Malay vernacular style, which have quite a similarity with the local traditional Malay house. The masjid display aspect native to Malaysia, which consider the four major factors in its architectural style, which is tropical climate, existing craftsmanship, local materials, and subcultural background. In the masjid, the floral ornaments carving is easily spotted as it is one of the significant elements in the regional Malay vernacular style. The materials mainly used in the building is timber due to wide availability. Chenggao hardwood was mainly used as the floor as it is higher thermal conductivity and lower insulation value, whereas merbau is used as structural column. The construction method used was tanggam and pasak technique, where it used a series of interlocking joints to connect the woods. This construction method is widely used in the local during the past. One of the reasons that this technique is used is because nail and glue did not last in Malaysia's tropical climate. Next, methods of conservation and preservation. As the site always experienced floods and caused the masjid structure to be weakened and even damaged, hence, relocation was done in 1968. Once the relocation was done, restoration and reconstruction takes part. According to Mahmud, the masjid has been restored according to the original condition with the same materials. Lastly, the application of ecomos and other conservation principles. The restoration approach used in the Masjid Kampung Laut is referred in Article 1.7 Bura Charter 1999. In the Charter, it is clearly stated that means returning the existing fabric of a place to a known earlier state by removing accretion or by reassembling existing components without the introduction of new materials. In the Principle for the Preservation of Historic Timber Structure 1999, stated that recognize the importance of timber structure from all periods as part of the cultural heritage of the world. Hence, Masjid Kampung Laut is a masjid that contains a rich historical value as it is able to maintain till now. As a conclusion, Masjid Kampung Laut is the oldest masjid in Malaysia. Despite being destroyed by the flood in the year 1966, people paid effort to restore the masjid by relocating and reconstruct the masjid, as the masjid itself bears a large amount of value in terms of historical, communal, and aesthetic. With the application of the conservation principle, the masjid is able to restore and remain its original self without being altered, even though expansion occurs in its surrounding. Lastly, I would like to quote, "The aim of restoration is to conserve the historic structure and its load-bearing function, and to reveal its cultural value by improving the legibility of its historical integrity, its earlier state and design within the limits of existing historic material evidence."
The mission house, built by William MacDonald at 35 Lebo Farquhar, Georgetown, Penang, and became one of the earliest premises of the Britain Assembly in the region. The premises was moved to Jalan Buma in 1938 when Lebo Farquhar was winded. In 2014, the restoration and reconstruction has made a substantial and lasting contribution to heritage conservation in Georgetown. Now, the mission house has become a gallery and restaurant open to public after bought by a new owner. The mission house has become a gallery and restaurant open to public for commercial purpose. Moving to cultural context, the Christian Britain of Malaysia, sometimes simply called the Britain, are an aggregate of independent and autonomous Protestant evangelical Christian church in Malaysia. The mission house was built and served as premise for Protestants in the region. Before the reconstruction and restoration, the building is suffered great run, dereliction, and lots of structure has fallen. For the historical value, the mission house as the earliest premises of the Britain Assembly, located at the city's oldest street, and now listed in UNESCO World Heritage Site. For surrounding context, the mission house became the main focus of the community and surrounded by the most significant civic, religious, and commercial building. The architecture of mission house style is the mixture of colonial and traditional Malay style, which have a characteristic of pitted roof, balanced window placement, and rectangular facade. The building emphasis on the wooden facades on the second floor and brick wall on the ground floor. The semicircles arches as opening are along the circumference of the building, and the wooden floor truss become a major element that support the roof. The main material used are timber, clay brick, clay roof tiles, and terracotta floor tiles, because all of these material can found in local easily and mainly used in 18th century. Stone wall frame and traditional king post roof truss used in the construction method because it is easy to build and give aesthetic to the structure. The project aims to return the building to its original structure and form of the damaged part. The same material is used to restore and reconstruct. A field of application of e-commerce and other conservation principle is used in this building. For example, based on the Untitled Chapter 1964, Article 5 and 12, the layout or decoration of the building must not be changed and replaced of missing parts, must integrate harmoniously with the whole. In the Principle for the Preservation of Historic Timber Structure 1999, state that the aim of restoration is to conserve the historic structure and its root-bearing function, and to reveal its cultural value by improving the legibility of its historical integrity, and the replacement of a member parts should respect the character and significance of the structure. The replacement timbers should preferably same species as the original and be worked using similar craft method and tools as the original. As a conclusion, although the mission house has suffered great run and derelictions, but people try their best to restore and reconstruct to bring back the original appearance and the beauty to the city again. We shall be proud that this project has successfully done and preserved the ambient character and a living piece of our history to our future generation.
Furthermore, the Lieb house was commissioned by Mr. and Mrs. Lieb as a vacation house for their family. The house does not have any major changes since 1969 when it was completed, until in 2009 it was sold by its fourth owner and the new buyer intended to tear it down for new development. Gladly that the house gets a new owner and regain a new life as a guest house at Cliff Cove, New York. The cultural context of the Lieb house is located at Barnegat Light, where it is a beach paradise that attracts thousands of visitors every year. It is famous for its lighthouse and birdwatching events. The original residents of the island are now helping maintain summer houses of the island to earn income as they are living. Before conservation, the house is in fair condition, despite having leakage problems due to its original construction. The house facing demolition due to the developer wanted to build bigger buildings on its original land rather than keeping the valuable Lieb house. Moving on, the aesthetic value of the house comes from the unique implement of pop art in the design, and it was one of the earliest work of Robert Venturi. For the surrounding context, the Lieb house is surrounded by neighborhood of cottage-style houses that make the Lieb house stood out from the rest. Local materials were used to fit in the hot and humid climate of the beach area. The architectural style of the Lieb house shows playfulness, pop art influence, and large-scale elements that make it as a classic example for postmodernism buildings. The architectural elements can be found from the house are the enormous number 9 door sign. The wide staircase from the outside creeps into the house and gradually decreases in the width until the second floor, and the gigantic 2-story window that frames the beach view. Balloon frame construction was introduced into the Lieb house. Concrete was used for the staircase. Ribbon window and large semicircular windows are installed, and the asbestos singlet were used as the finishes for the house. Relocation and conservation were used as the method to preserve the Lieb house. The house is relocated to Cliff Cove to escape its fate of demolition. The house also gets some updates of adding insulation that never been installed since the first owner. Double glazed windows is installed without changing the shape of the window. The new owner restored the facade carefully by following the original design and furnished the house with white furniture to match the white color interior. Various principles is implemented into the Lieb house, like the Venice Charter 1964 from e-commerce stated that it is within limits only, that modification demanded by a change of function should be obfuscated and may be permitted. As the Lieb house gets to update its infrastructure to fit the usage of a guest house and also increase its lifespan. Furthermore, according to Restoration Principle Article 9 from Venice Charter 1964, stated that the restoration in any case must be preceded and followed by an archaeological and historical study. The owner restored the house facade accordingly from the house original design plan. In conclusion, it is glad to see the Lieb house escape its demolition fate and regain a new life. It is also terrifying that there is more building outside that face the same depressing fate as the Lieb house does. The public should aware that despite the postmodern style building may not seem older than the other ancient buildings, but the importance of preserving them and the value between both are equal.
Moving on to Majestic Theatre. Tianyan Theatre was commissioned by Mr. Yu Dong-seng due to his wife's unhappy experience in the theatre. Then it was rented out to Shaw's brother and they renamed the theatre to the Queen's Theatre. Then on the year 1942, it was renamed to Taihua Opera House to screen Japanese propaganda films. Finally, the theatre was renamed again by Kongni Film Company, which is Majestic Theatre. In the year 1956, Cathay organization bought it and transformed to a shopping mall, then sell it to Singapore Turf Club on the year 2008. The theatre was now a bathing centre located at Yu Dong-seng Street in Singapore's Chinatown, open for public. Moving on to its cultural context. The theatre was located among Chinatown to serve as a function of entertainment to local Chinese, as the immigrants of the same provincial origins and language group move on their life here. Before conserving the hand-drawn tiles of the facade, the color started to fade and crack, and the exterior wall is dirty and with holes due to lack of maintenance and excessive signage board hanging. Moving on to communal value of the building. Cantonese group are occupying the area around the theatre. Then the Chinese immigrant was becoming more successful, thus the religious performance of opera became a source of entertainment to them. For the surrounding context, the theatre became a major icon due to the community support. The building itself is surrounded by traditional Chinese-style shop lots. To fit the hot, humid climate, the theatre is built using brickwork and the style is suiting the traditional Chinese culture. The architectural style of the theatre is a mixture of Western and Chinese, and it is the result of increase in exposure of European style, but still maintaining the essence of Chinese architecture. The most significant architectural element is the hand-drawn tiles of traditional operas characters, and the whole building windows and door leaf is an Art Deco style. There is two different styles of column in the building, colonial and Chinese style. Besides, the building have an overhang that is simplified dogong design. For the exterior facade, hand-drawn tiles is used for decorative purposes, and for the interior, the ceiling is using shiny tiles to reflect sound. Brickwork and concrete is used in the construction, and framework is introduced. Restoration and renovation is the method used in the preservation and conservation progress. Due to different tenants and different entertainment of different era, the theatre undergoes different renovation of interior, and the exterior facade was badly polluted, different signage, and the decoration is some damaged due to lack of care. Due to failure of theatre business, the last owner sold the theatre to a bathing company, and they hired back the original architecture firm to restore back the exterior facade. But the interior was now a bathing center. Shocked a lot of heritage conservationists, even though this building is listed as Heritage Conservation Building by Singapore government. A few applications of ecomos and conservation principle is used in this building. For example, the Principle of Conservation of Wall Building 2013. It stated that the wall paintings are an integral part of monuments and sites and should be preserved in situ. In the conservation principle and policy, in the case of Majestic Theatre, though the heritage value are used for some practical purpose, the relationship between its utility and its historical value can range from mutual support to conflict, which is the reason causing the theatre convert to betting centre, economic interest. As a summary, Majestic Theatre has brought a lot of memories to the locals, and additionally, Singapore government has given not only this building but the whole area of Chinatown a conservation status. Fortunately, it will not be playing blockbuster film to the local as it has transformed into a betting centre. This has shocked many heritage conservationists since then. Many people is proposing idea and solution to change its fate, hoping it to shine back its glory. Thank you.